try ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever. Just try it. Because guess what? This isn't going away. Have a conversation. Make it like you're talking to an advisor, a mentor, a staff person. If you look at it from a generational perspective, think of these kids now that are in junior high and high school. When they get to be our customers, they're going to expect this stuff. So we have to learn to adapt.
Ted, Vickey, how you doing, buddy?
Rick Mayo, the man, the myth, the legend. How you doing? I'm doing great here.
Yeah, I bet. I'm sure that you are, and you stole the words right out of my mouth. The man, the myth, the legend. Well, listen, we have a lot of similar contacts in the fitness industry. We haven't had an opportunity to meet directly until yesterday. I find your study and your background fascinating. So I can't wait to dig in today on all things artificial intelligence, I guess, learning language models and anything else that you see out there. But first, in keeping with the tradition of the Alloway Personal Training Business Podcast, we have to do a dad joke. And you strike me as a guy who's got one on deck. So what you got for me, buddy?
I got a good one, Rick. When does a dad joke become a dad joke?
I'm already laughing. I don't know.
When it becomes apparent.
Yes, my man. You did not let me down. I appreciate you, man.
Rick, it's funny to bring up dad jokes. I teach at Tulane. And I send out a weekly announcement to all my students. And at the end, I've told ChatGPT, I want you to write a dad joke based on the information that I'm teaching the students that week. And the students love it. I mean, they're guaranteed to open the email, which I absolutely love, because they want the dad joke.
That's amazing. See, I mean, obviously, universe aligns at the right time with the right people. But we just started it. It's a business podcast, but like that's our culture. Like, we only have 5 core values. One of them is humor with a touch of crazy. So it's like, it's just fitness. There's a lot of ways to make money. We have a blast doing what we do. So like dad jokes have become a thing. And now people come to conference or training week or discovery day. They all show up and I've got a dad joke for you. I'm like, okay, it's become like a whole thing inadvertently, but it's actually kind of fun. So I actually have to read mine because of 250 podcasts in. I can't remember. I've actually told the same one before, which is super lame. But so I asked my phone earlier today, I'm like, Siri, why am I so bad with women? And she responded with, I'm Alexa, you moron. For my life. That would be accurate, actually. I read that. I'm like, yeah, that would be me for sure.
I felt bad for women that have been named Alexa in the last 20 years because they can't have conversations at home.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you'd have to change it up. Well, listen, man, you've got a really interesting background. And so let's dig right in. Let's tell the listeners how you got into what you do. I know you'd already mentioned you were a professor at Tulane University, but give us your background. I know you've done some things at the White House. Just super interesting, the little bit that I know. So I'm encouraged to listen to this as well.
Well, I'll give you the short version. We'll do the long version next time we have dinner. But I originally started off at Penn State being a political science major of all things. I wanted to be president, but wanted to be a senator. And I played water polo. And at the end of the season, I broke my ankle. And I went to physical therapy. And I'm like, this is fantastic. They help other people. They listen to music all day. They don't have to wear a tie. So I went back to Penn State. I looked for physical therapy. They didn't have it, but they had exercise science. So my undergraduate degree is exercise science. And I needed to do an internship. And, my love of DC and politics, I found one at the White House. And I was like, holy cow, this is fantastic. It was the White House, the LA Lakers, USA Today, and ComSat, a satellite company. And I got the White House internship. That was the first one I had. I don't remember the other 3 interviews. Never made to LA, but that really changed my life and changed my career. And it was there actually where my love of technology. My mom worked for IBM in the late 60s, so I was always been one of those tech kids. But I computerized the White House membership roster. They did it by hand. This was 1991, and I put it on Excel spreadsheet and I automated the whole thing, and they loved it. I couldn't stay on. They didn't have a position for me. So I ended up working for a consulting company in DC for corporate fitness and loved every minute of it, but still had my love of technology. Got promoted out to corporate headquarters. And 94, my old boss in the White House called. Said, I met the man of my dreams, moving to Detroit. You want to buy my company? I'm 24, no business experience. I don't know if I do it today, but I said, hell yes. I came back. And Rick, you'll love this. The deal was contingent upon her getting married. She was marrying Dan Quayle's Secret Service agent. And there were a couple of times that the two of them were arguing. I'm like, oh, what did I just do? So I sent her flowers from him saying, Denise, I love you so much. Love, Mike. And I sent them to the White House, and they got married. So that's a great thing, and they're still married. Um, but you're talking about family values. The day I signed the contract at the White House, my grandmother died, and I left. So the first week that I was, president in the White House, I'm home in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I realized then that it's about family, and you got to have. And I read something Harvard Business Review lately that said, well, companies shouldn't be considered families, but no, I disagree, because that was the approach that we took. And so I was at the White House, and I knew every one of my competitors wanted my company, and so I did what I could. And after the White House, the second one was Fruit of the Loom in Kentucky. Part of the contract was I got underwear for life. And the third was Sylvania, and then the Security Exchange Commission ran and built their fitness center. And I'm just going up and had no debt, but I knew that if I wanted to be in the market, in the competition, I had to grow. So I got acquired by a medical company, and then 9/11 happened, and we lost a nurse on the top of the World Trade Center. We had that account, and we became the fitness testing arm for TSA, for all fitness evaluations for every 65,000 TSA employees. So I'm living a high life, having this good. I'm a fitness guy. Like, what am I doing in these big meetings with TSA? But my mother passed away. The last thing she told me was that I worked too hard, and it really hit home. On the way back from Pennsylvania to DC, I decided that she was right. So I went into the chairman of the company. I said, I'm done. He said, you're 35 years old. What are you going to do? I said, and Rick, that's when you own a company, especially at the White House. I did not have a vacation. I was always on call. So I said, I'm going to honor my mother's memory. So I'm going to do something crazy, like move to Ireland, sell everything I own, and get a master's degree and play a lot of golf. So I did. And then the Irish government said, would you be interested in staying for a PhD? We'll pay for it. I said, I got another 3 years of playing golf. So I said, sure. He said, pick whatever you want. I said, this was 2010. I said, this new iPhone, I think there's something there. And I think we talked yesterday. This phone that we keep in our pocket, millions of times more powerful than the computer you put the man on the moon, but we keep it in our pocket. Why can't we get that to get people more healthy? And that's the basis of my PhD. So I've had this fantastic life. I was 2 years ago worked for Mark Zuckerberg for a big court case. I was the expert witness for the fitness technology side of it. So I have fun working on some new med spa ideas. But this ChatGPT, this AI that came out a couple of years ago, I really, when I saw it, I'm like, it was one of those things. There's something about this. So I've really spent the last couple of years looking at AI and how we in the fitness industry can use technology to help people live healthier lives, and for us as staff to work smarter, not harder.
I love it. What a cool background. What a great story about taking that advice from your mom, and look what that turned into, right? It's like interesting how when you work hard, you get opportunities. Like you've had a very fortuitous life and some opportunities, but you also recognize them and took advantage of them. So I love it, man. Great backstory. Well, we're going to get back to this as we get to these questions, but just to give people an idea, like you're really, if you want to niche down, you really understand certainly ChatGPT and how it applies to the fitness space, which we'll get to. Just for sake of right now, so that we can be redundant with it, what is the title of your new book that you just released on that topic?
I have it right here. It's the Fitness Professional's Guide to ChatGPT. And Rick, you may or may not agree with me, but I think we in the fitness industry are behind the times, and we're slow when it comes to adopting technology. And I gave a talk in it was March of this year for ACSM Idea, 1,000 people in the room, and it was there that I said there needs to be more than just me giving these talks. So I decided to write the book. By the way, it's the 5th book I've written. The others took months. This book took me literally 10 hours to write.
Good for you, man. I love
it. Did I use ChatGPT to write it? No, I used it to help me write it, and I think there's a big.
It's kind of, don't you have to if you're writing about it? Like it would be strange not to.
Exactly. But you didn't say something. I talk about ChatGPT, and there are other models out there. There's Gemini, there's Copilot.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, what's the current? Let's start there. Like, what is the current landscape? Like, what's out there? I know Gemini, obviously, that's a Google product, right? You've got ChatGPT, learning language models, I guess LLMs as they're referred to. So, what's like apart from fitness, just broad sweeping? What are some of the most you think relevant AI platforms right now? How do they work? Like, how do you see the landscape overall? Because there's some that can do imaging. Obviously, ChatGPT is that as well. But what's your view on the overall landscape of AI right now?
Rick, let's take a step back because I think some people, when they hear AI, they think of the Terminator, with the half man,
Yeah.
half robot coming in, and it's going to replace us. No, it's not. Let's start with that. In fact, we've been using AI in our lives longer than people think. When you go to Netflix, it says what movie you should watch next. Guess what? That's AI. When you get a phone call that your credit card looks like it was scammed, and did you really charge $1,000 on golf clubs? Yeah, that's AI. So it's been there. We just haven't known about it. But what ChatGPT and these learning LLMs, as you call them, which is correct, what they've done is they've brought the AI experience to us as the consumers. We can run it off our computer, we can run it off our iPhones, whatever, and they're powerful, and they're getting powerful every day. And I really mean that by every day. We talked yesterday, and I guarantee that they've made improvements in just one day to ChatGPT. There are a bunch of them out there. I like ChatGPT. It's like me driving a BMW, driving a Mercedes. We get to the same place. But I find ChatGPT to be the user interface much simpler. And because it's the most popular, I think there's more and more opportunities with it. So when I wrote the book, any of the prompts that I wrote in here can work on any of those. So it can work on Llama, it can work on Gemini, all those.
Oh,
The
that's
prompting
cool.
is the same. It's the same.
Right.
But you can't write a book saying the fitness professional's guide to AI because it would be just too broad.
Yeah.
So that's why I did it. But even you talked about images, the image, ChatGPT. Now this was 4 months ago. Rick, I wrote a blog post yesterday about golf stretching. And at the end of it, I said, now create an image, and I want it to look like a Pixar style image. It did it. So now we have this opportunity, and I don't want to take jobs away from copywriters, but you can write your own copy. You can make it sound like you. You can make it specific to your ideal client. And at the end of it, you can say, now give me an image that goes with it. And oh, by the way, I want 10 social media posts. And it'll do that. And it'll do all of that in 2 minutes.
Yeah, nuts and imaging and everything. I know that I do it. If you ask the right questions and you put the right parameters in there, for some of my most popular social media posts, it's literally copy paste. And that might break the hearts of folks that thought I was creative enough to come up with that wording and those emojis, but I was not. But I did feed it the right information, and why not use the tools at our disposal, right? So okay, so learning language models are where it's at. They kind of all are the same. They're just different. But you mainly, as far as the ones that are available that are mainstream, you like the ChatGPT platform the best of them all, but they'll all work. And your book is agnostic, if you will, like platform agnostic. Like, here's how to put the right questions in to get the right stuff out. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And I when I wrote the book, I did it from a fitness business perspective. So we talked about marketing. We talked about finding our ideal client, which I think is super important. The traditional model of textbook ideal clients. You've got a female that wants to join a gym. She's interested in X, Y, and Z. But you can really drill down and say, my ideal client is Rhonda. She's a stay-at-home mom. She prefers Lululemon over Viore. She drives a SUV, a luxury SUV. She's got 2 kids. And you can really hone that down. And what I love about that is when I think about my ideal client now, and I'm creating that content for them, it's more specific, and it really hits where you want to. Another big part of the book is, can we use ChatGPT to create workouts? And the answer is absolutely yes. Now, people are saying, well, you've eliminated personal training. No, there's a word before training. It's personal, right? So what I've done is what I've did at the White House. You know where I got the workouts from the White House that I give to the president? From Muscle and Fitness, Joe Weider, thank you very much. In the back, they would have these workouts, right? So we've been doing this for years. It just makes it a lot more convenient. And the traditional model of personal training, in my mind, is broken. You're trading time for money. So how do you get more revenue? Either increase time, which we don't want to do, or you increase your price. You're going to price yourself out of it. So imagine, and I've done this, creating a model where I am your personal trainer. You're in Atlanta. I'm in San Diego, but I collect all of your wearable information, right? And I'm running it through ChatGPT, and I see all these trends, and I'm monitoring as opposed to meeting with you, changing the pin all the time. And I really think that you can do it. Why do you hire a personal trainer? Accountability, education, motivation. Can you do those four things on iPhone?
Look, man, that's been my business since '92. Started out one-on-one, and we figured out you could train up to 6 people, and we got technology that drives that makes it less expensive for the consumer, right? But also a better business model for us, right? And people need a place to get out of their house and an appointment, right? I need to show up because the guy's waiting on me. And if I don't show up, he's going to call me and say, hey, where the heck were you, right? And we can do that in groups of up to 6, which just brings a better value proposition to the consumer. So it's specific to the fitness space. We talked about things like social media posts, newsletters. Like, give me some applications on the business building side of it, like that. Workout side, that's for us. I speak on the circuit with the best strength coaches in the world. That part, I wouldn't say it's easy, but that we've got, I feel like it almost seems to be the easiest part of the business, which is interesting. The thing we do, no big deal. Now, making that come to life, marketing it, right? Putting a story around it, customer experience. So tell me about those type of tools, newsletters. We talked a little bit about social media posts. Like, how would you see it specifically in the business building side?
Let's go back. I graduated from Penn State with a degree in exercise science. You know how many business classes I took? 0. We didn't get in the fitness industry to become business people, right? So, and I don't blame trainers or fitness professionals when they struggle with it. We were never taught. So think of it this way. I actually call my ChatGPT Jarvis. I'm an Iron Man fan. So in the morning I say, good morning, Jarvis. He says, good morning, Dr. V, because I programmed it to say what I want it to say. And I get a dad joke. But imagine you now can have Steve Jobs, you can have Elon Musk in your pocket, and you can ask questions to ChatGPT saying, you know what, I want to open up a high-end training studio in San Diego. What would Steve Jobs say are the 3 things I need to do? What would Elon Musk say are the 3 things I need to do? So you've got really a PhD from a Harvard graduate in your pocket, and that's one of the beautiful things about it. So what can you do? You can do, and I told you I did this. I did that example. I said I want a high-end studio in San Diego. It gave me the zip codes. I then went in ChatGPT and said, give me open commercial space with 5,000 square feet currently available. And it gave me a list of 5 places to go look. Now, you know this better than I do. How long would it take somebody to do what I just did in 2 minutes?
Yeah. And I think for us, when I think about that, Ted, like we turf that to vendors that specialize in it. They're using those tools, right? So I think, a lot of people, like our footprint's 1,500 to 2,000 square feet, relatively small, right? We only need 130 to 150 people to have a really good, viable business model. So it's easy, in that regard. And we've got the best software in all of franchising to map out all the major MSAs, 150 of them in the lower 48. Like, where can we go? What are the home run search areas, right? When people buy it, they get a protected territory, such. But all of those vendors are using those tools in silos, right? So it's interesting you're not a layman with ChatGPT, but as a layman to opening a high-end studio, which we're doing in mass, you just popped in a few things and got probably 80% there, right? So I think if someone, again, what space is available to me, there may be some folks that, and we found this many a time where you've got someone who owns a little out parcel, it's not listed. So it's the national real estate vendors wouldn't find it. Maybe it misses that. But again, that 80% rule, it's not a bad idea to do some research. You can do market research, you can do availability research, you can do pricing structures, all those things. And I think you'll find in our process, because our vendors are doing, you kind of end up in the same spot. It just gets a little bit more specific.
Yeah. I think the best way to think of it is brainstorming, right?
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Yep.
When I was writing the book, I'd get these, and it doesn't matter. You're writing a book, you're writing a paper, you're writing what even a blog post. You get stuck. So I just said, okay, Jarvis, I'm stuck. What is the next logical thing that I could do? And it would tell me. The number one thing I would suggest, first of all, try ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever. There's a new one called Perplexity, which I'm really starting to like. Just try it, right? Because guess what? This isn't going away. So you can either decide you either want to adopt it or you don't, but you're going to be able to make that decision. Get in there and try it and have a conversation. Make it make it like you're talking to an advisor, a mentor, a staff person. And if you do that, like you said earlier, the prompts that you will get are going to be more effective. And guess what? If you have a prompt, and there are thousands of people out there that want to sell you prompts, which okay, I get it. Some of them are good, but if you learn how to prompt and then say, okay, ChatGPT, how can I improve this prompt? It's going to do that for you. So it's this ongoing cycle of improvement that I think really sets it apart. When I say I use ChatGPT more than 20 times a day, literally I do. Before I send out an email, I use it. And I've actually trained it to sound like me, and there are ways that you can do that. Be happy to show anyone that wants to do it. But I also said I want to create the opposite voice, right? Because let's say I'm targeting female personal trainers. I've created, in fact, I call her Nina. It was the first girl I had a crush on in high school. I can write a message by myself. It sounds good, but this now I want you to write to my deal client, but make it sound like it comes from Nina, and it's a totally different vibe. It sounds like it came from Nina. So those are some of the things that I think can very easily. And by the way, the free version will do this. It's $20 a month if you want the upgraded version, which I do, but it makes it so much easier. Rick, I created something called My Fitness Prompt, and it was something that I wanted to show trainers in the fitness industry that using ChatGPT is not a bad thing. I trained this model on education from ACE, ACES, and NASM. So it's got all the current information. I then went back to my White House days. I said, okay, there are certain questions I must ask. Have you exercised before? What equipment do you have available? How can I best motivate you? I came up with about 15 questions. So now, as a trainer, it's going to be free forever. If you go there and answer these questions about your client, click a button, boom, your workout gets created. And you were talking about earlier, I know you said that a lot of your facilities have similar equipment. That's a great way to differentiate yourself.
Yeah, they have all. It's the same, same equipment for all of them.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And like you said, going back to the business side of it, I use it to write blog posts. I use it to write emails. I use it to, I get a complaint from a client, and I usually want to cuss them out and say something, but I'm like, okay, Nina, you got to answer this one, and the reply it comes back to it. I'm just doing a request for proposal, and I wanted to put some criteria in. I'm like, okay, how do I write this? What it gave back to me is probably what a lawyer would write. Again, I'm not going to think that I'm a lawyer, but what I'm providing to my lawyer to review made their job easier. And guess what? It decreased my cost because they don't have to find all this stuff.
Yep. Well, I told you earlier today, like before we started recording, I used it just this morning. I copied a huge business document, dropped it in there, summarized this, look for these tripwires, and read it to me or give it to me at an 8th grade level. So it's just plain speak, and it drops all the legalese, and I can go through it then in 5 minutes and feel confident. And, at first you're like, am I really? So you read both until you finally do that enough where you're like, it's great. It's not really missing anything. So there's just a million and one ways to use it. But I think some of the ways that you mentioned again, I think through the lens certainly of our Alloy franchisees, it's like, it's really, you have an email list and you paid for that list, right? Handsomely for social media marketing, or you're trading a lead magnet for a contact info, right? One of those being an email or text, right? So cell phone. So it's to follow up with them, especially knowing that our target avatar is really 45, 65 with money. It's like, all right, well, you can create that in a really short period of time. Send out, hit your list twice a week, and not always with an ask, right? It's the old Gary Vaynerchuk, left, right hook kind of idea, where it's like, hit them with some information. Sure, you can have an ask in there every now, but it can do all of that for you, right? And so to not take advantage of that when the software, the delivery mechanism is there, you've paid for this list. It's like a gold mine. All you have to do is create the content. I think that's the biggest barrier. Well, if you have a tool where you can simply drop 4 or 5 parameters in there and it's learning as well, copy, paste, and go. There's very little barrier to this type of marketing, right? Would you agree?
Absolutely, and it makes it more efficient. And what I like to say, it gives us time to do what we really got in this industry to do, and that's to help others. You're out on the floor, you're talking to people, you're learning what they want, right? Instead of sitting in the back doing all these things that would have taken you. Well, I did this for that conference I spoke at. I took a job description from a corporate fitness company, and I figured out that about 70% of the things that were listed in the job description could be done by AI and probably better. Now,
Interesting.
does that mean that AI is going to replace a fitness professional? No. Think of AI as another tool. It's a treadmill. It's
right. It's a tool in your tool belt. Yeah, and a good one.
Well, yeah. A very good one.
And I think in a lot of ways, like obviously, like okay, writing workouts, great. If you're an online trainer, you need to scale your time and energy. I get it. But if you're like us, like say you're a brick and mortar, the workout part, that's really kind of like a philosophy that we do that well. Could it produce those? Sure, but it's a certain format. I think really to your point, you get out of school, you've got an exercise science degree. Most people get into fitness not to do business. So I really see it as being this sort of aid, if you will, or partner that can come alongside you and do some of the business functions that A, you may not be good at them, and B, you might just not like doing it, right? And so here's a thing that can make it really easy to do it.
Don't tell my girlfriend this, but I actually I scripted replies to her based on what she texted me. And I looked like $1 million, but I have $1 million to get through to her. But here's something that I want to caution anyone listening: is AI hiccups. I asked AI where I got my PhD. It said Connecticut. I've never been to Connecticut, so think of it this way: would you ever allow a communication going from your gym to the members from an intern? You've got to review it because it will make mistakes. Now, when this first started, there were a lot of concerns that it was making things up. It's gotten better. So now, let's say I want to write an article about golf fitness stretching. I can now say, give me 5 citations to prove that I'm not making this up. And it'll go out and it'll search things. Sometimes it's academic journal articles. Sometimes it's something from Golf Fitness Magazine. It'll give that to you. So now you're looking smarter than you really are because you've gone out there, you've combed the web, and literally, it took me 3 years to do the data analysis for my PhD. Rick, if I did it today, I could be done in 3 months.
Yeah. Do they allow that, by the way? That's just a side question because everyone asks about academia. Like, well, how are they dealing with the emergence of AI?
It's interesting because I teach it.
Well, now you're on the professor side. So how are you?
I'm on the professor side. Well, look, my job as professor is to get my students ready for their careers. ChatGPT AI is not going anywhere. So I actually want my students to use AI. I tell them,
I love that.
The prompt that you use, because I will go then and I will help you. I actually, we write in a format called APA 7, which is the academic way of writing it. And students have a hard time with it. So now I'll take their paper, I'll upload it and say, using APA 7 format, tell me how many of these sentences should be cited, right? So it's something that you should cite. Now tell me how many weren't. I send that back to the student. I say, I will regrade your paper if you correct these. I'm not going to tell them which ones are need to be cited, but it's giving them an opportunity to go back and to learn. That's learning because I'm giving them a chance to go look. And I get in arguments. I call them the traditional academics with the tweed coat on, with the leather patches on the elbows.
Yeah, that's right.
They say, well, you can't use AI it's going to ruin academics. Well, I'm pretty sure and Rick, remember back in high school, the card catalog at the library? I'm pretty sure that when Google came out, people thought the same thing. So
the printing press, I mean, you name it, right? Yeah. Historically, anything that's going to ruin everything.
But my response is, how about we change the way that we teach and learn? So if you're afraid that a student is going to write a paper using ChatGPT, guess what? Make an oral presentation.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's really interesting. I mean, of course, I could keep you on for hours because you've got all this melding of things that I'm personally interested in. Also, fitness background, business is a necessary evil. I've learned to really like that. Help teach entrepreneurship at a local college. All these things that I really really lean into that I like. Um, where do you see if you have pull your crystal ball out for me for a minute? Where do you see things headed for the fitness industry and AI, maybe just AI overreaching for the foreseeable future?
I think AI has the opportunity to really level the playing field. It's going to allow mom and pops to really decrease costs. They're not going to have to go out. They're not going to have to hire a copywriter. They're not going to have to do a web designer. This stuff is getting better and better every day. There's a way now, Rick, where I could upload a presentation and say, "Give me a slide deck for it." Right? It's kind of clunky now, but we have this conversation 6 months from now.
Yeah.
I guarantee Microsoft is going to have that built into PowerPoint, and they're starting to do this. So I think that ACSM does that trends of the year. AI is going to be
Hmm.
one of the top five, in my opinion, this year. Is not going to go away. So we in the industry have to learn how to adopt it. There are still going to be people that want to train. I'll call it the old-fashioned way, right? But I think if you look at it from a generational perspective, think of these kids now that are in junior high and high school. When they get to be our customers, they're going to expect this stuff.
Right.
So we have to learn to adapt. And one of the things, I don't know if you ever looked at it, but I learned it when I was working with Zuckerberg. This augmented reality, this virtual fitness,
Yep.
in the goggles that they have.
Yep.
I just saw a commercial yesterday where the NBA has a deal now where you can sit and watch the game courtside from Madison Square Garden, and you
Live. Right.
see the game live in those seats. That's
Wild.
my right. So
Wild.
um, I don't think that ChatGPT will be able to have your clients do the workouts, but who knows? Maybe one day you can
Yeah.
put
I mean, I've always thought it would be great if we had an avatar, if you will, that was appropriate to our customer, and in some way, if AI could make it work, I would never want to eliminate coaches, but maybe there's a way to scale it where this person shows up on the like the mirror, right, the fitness apparatus, where but instead of like just somebody you don't know, maybe it's The Rock or maybe it's your favorite star, right, and they stand there and give you a workout, and they can also view form, and they can coach multiple people. And I think that's coming. And I think what I want, certainly any of our franchisees, which is a lot of folks that listen to the podcast, to hear is that we're looking at those things, right? Like it's always it's personal, right? It's personal training. So it's like, okay, anything that takes away from that, we have to be very careful not to disrupt that human to human connection, but we'd be crazy not to be looking at it. And we are. Like, as an example, you and I talked about this offline as well. We're currently testing a PLM, so a personal language model, which means it's just siloed to any information that we've put out. We've got a Herculean amount of transcribed podcasts and blog posts and all kinds of YouTube videos, anything that can be pulled, and it just silos there. So someone could land on our site, on the consumer site, and say something like, "Hey, what's the best way to lose weight?" And through our lens, it could answer that question in a very relevant way. On the franchise side, it could be like, "Hey, how much does it cost to get into an Alloy franchise?" And it could pull information from what's called the item 7, which is the what the range is to cost to open an Alloy. Bam, it would give you that. So there's so many things that we're currently looking at, both franchise development and to the consumer, that are probably going to work out pretty well. And I want our franchisees to know that's why I love having you on. I think it's a very relevant topic. It's to your point, it's not going anywhere. And I think there's always the fatalistic view. You joked about the Terminator, right? Like Skynet becomes sentient and shuts us down and kills us all. It's like, look, man, I mean, sure, is it scary? Yes. But fear mongering gets a lot of clicks and hype. And so you're going to hear more of that. But I think ultimately, if you're glass half full, this is an amazing tool that can enrich our lives and make our jobs easier. And in my world, you can make more money and help more people. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Would you agree?
There's nothing wrong with that, and it gives us an opportunity. You were saying that having potential clients come to your website. You've just created now a way where you can share your expertise really for free, right? Because
Yep.
if imagine you could have done that where someone had to call the facility, you have to answer the phone, you had to have someone there. Well, how do I lose 50 pounds? But now you can do it for free. So imagine you said earlier, I like doing for every every 10 social media posts, I share 9 things for free, and there's a one ask, one
ask. Yep.
right?
That's the way to do it.
And you're providing value, and you're creating trust, right? So we buy based on the trust that we've created between us, the vendor, and the client, and that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, it's a great currency. Well, look, I appreciate it. Again, I could keep you on all day. I know we're going to have further talks about how we can get you to the brand. Dude, I'd maybe even love to get you out to conference to do something next year at our annual conference. But I have one more question for you. It's a common question, but I do find it interesting. The bonus, no bonus question. Dead or alive, you can invite anyone to dinner. Who are you having over?
Oh, anyone.
Anyone.
I was named after Teddy Roosevelt. I'm a big fan of him when he was the president. So I want Teddy Roosevelt, and I would just love to have conversations with him about what it was like in the early 1900s and what made him tick.
Yeah, I love it. I think my son, he's an officer on a nuclear submarine in the Navy, and he said Eisenhower. Just like to sit down and pick his brain. Like, how are you making decisions at this crazy time? These are big decisions that affect millions of people ultimately. So I love it, man. Well, look, it's been a real pleasure. Again, first chance I've really had to hear your story. It's amazing. I'd love to dig in deeper. But ladies and gentlemen, Ted Vickey, appreciate you, my friend.
Thanks, Rick. Talk to you soon.